We are still waiting for the Chicago Bulls to make their decision on their lead executive position. And there is a NBA insider who believes that Matt Lloyd is the front runner for the job, and he could be potentially bringing in a coach that me and C-Dub talked about on our last episode. And while there are a number of finalists for the job, a new name has emerged for the job. Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you gotta hear the music first. Cognac. Gang. Shot Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. So if you tuned in, like what you're listening to today, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Man. On this episode, it's going to be a lot of GM talk. I ain't even going to hold you, but nonetheless, let's jump right into it. So per Mike Scotto from Hoops Hype, Timberwolves executive Matt Lloyd is currently being viewed as the favorite for the Chicago Bulls lead front office role. And another tidbit or a little small nugget is that if Chicago hires Matt Lloyd, Minnesota's top assistant, Micah Nori, could follow him as the Bulls' next head coach. If you remember correctly, on our last episode, when we revisited, and it's saying that Ayo Dosunmu words, and we talked about a number of executives and mentioned 3 coaching candidates. Micah Nori was one of those coaching candidates that we brought up, and we said, hey, Matt Lloyd's in the running. Why not bring in Micah Nori to have that kind of alignment? And I think that's something that's very, very interesting. We know that Matt Lloyd has previously worked with the Chicago Bulls, has spent the last few years in Minnesota. We've seen them go out there and turn that team around, get a star like Anthony Edwards, move off of guys like Karl Anthony Towns, go out there and spend money on Jaden McDaniels, fleece the Chicago Bulls to give them Ayo Dosunmu. Yes, in hindsight, it's a fucking fleece because I'm mad that Ayo Dosunmu over there balling out, but I'm happy for him at the same time. But I also think that is very, very important for the sake of just, hey, we're looking for some type of alignment, right? And when you talk about Micah Nori, just to go out there and revisit the stuff, has been an assistant since 2009, has spent time with the Raptors, Kings, Nuggets, Pistons, and the Wolves, obviously. But one tidbit that C-Dub threw out there for me, and I did not even remember it. This man got some experience in the playoffs when Chris Finch got hurt and ruptured his patella tendon. Micah Nori took over in 2024 playoffs for the Wolves versus the Denver Nuggets, in which the Wolves won the series. And then Chris Finch returned. So the man showed me he can coach. I know it's not the greatest sample size as the lead dog, but it's something that we really should like. And I think the most important thing right now for the Chicago Bulls' sake is looking at the alignment from top down. We know the guy that's running the show is Michael Reinsdorf. And don't come in my damn comment box talking about sell the team. They're not selling the team. This is a profitable business. The numbers keep looking good. So we're not even going to focus on Michael Reinsdorf. The point is that you're going to have alignment with Michael Reinsdorf. You're going to have a familiar face with Matt Lloyd and somebody to come in and coach that Matt Lloyd is familiar with, potentially. Nothing set in stone yet, that Micah Nori could come in and coach the Chicago Bulls. Now, I pose this question to you all. Is that good alignment in your eyes? Obviously, we're going to see Matt Lloyd be the lead dog. We're going to wait and see if he's hired. We're going to definitely be watching to see who's going to be the staff under him. We're definitely going to be waiting to see how they fill out the scouting department, et cetera, et cetera. But is that something that aligns with what you feel like could be something successful. Obviously, we're going to gauge it on the moves that are going to be made, the players that they're going to draft, et cetera, et cetera. But let's just say, for the sake of discussion, that you have Matt Lloyd, you have another guy that he promotes from over there from Minnesota, and then you bring in Micah Nori. Would that be something that you guys will be positive about? Because if you ask me, I think that's some positive shit that I'll be down for. What was one of the most important things for me at this particular moment in time is always alignment. You can't do things backwards. We see a number of times to where some ownership group throws a coach in the situation to the front office executive, or something similar to what we almost ran into with Michael Reinsdorf, saying that, hey, if an executive wants to be a part of the Chicago Bulls and doesn't want Billy Donovan, maybe he's not the guy for us. Thank God Billy Donovan said, hey, I'm up out of here. We gone. It is what it is. So shout out to that. But is that something that you guys will be good with is the most important part of the discussion. My next question is regarding Matt Lloyd and, all this stuff that's going on with the rounds of interviews or whatnot. How comfortable are you guys with a familiar face? He was here before. He understands the city of Chicago. But is that the end all be all? Doesn't matter if you're a familiar face if you can't get the fucking job done. That's the biggest thing, and that's the biggest concern. My biggest concern, regardless if it's Matt Lloyd or any of the other candidates, is can you get the job done? I want to know what type of job or work you're going to do in Chicago to not have us being viewed as a laughing stock with around the NBA. That's the biggest thing. It goes on back to what we were talking about on other channels and avenues about, other teams and how that alignment from the top down, how important it is for a team's success. And I think that's very, very important for the sake of the Chicago Bulls. And that's very important to me. We'll see if Michael Reinsdorf feels the same way because he's guiding the ship. Now, if he gets the right guys in place, he can take the step back. But let's not make the same mistakes that you made when you took the step back when AK was out here putting holes in the fucking boat before it went down. Let's see what we're going to be able to do for the sake of the Chicago Bulls, man. We shall see. Now, I want to switch on over to the name that was added to the finalist list for the Chicago Bulls lead executive job. That is Assistant General Manager Dave Lewing from the Boston Celtics, who I'm really intrigued by simply because he's coming from a winning organization. That organization seemed to pivot really well, win, and get ahead of the curve on certain situations. So I'm very, very intrigued by this candidate. He's a young guy at just 39 years old, which is crazy work, but still kudos to him for building himself up until this point. And I love the background of the man. He started off as an intern, worked his way in the scouting department, all the way up into where he is now. He has been a part of the Boston Celtics since 2012. So that's a number of iterations of the Boston Celtics. I remember we had Isaiah Thomas over there. I remember when they first got Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I remember just a couple seasons ago, them winning the championship. And then they said, hey, Al Horford old as hell. Let's go out there and make a couple moves. They went out there and just got Nikola Vucevic. I know C-Dub is not too happy about that. But nonetheless, the point is that they found a number of other players and made a number of moves that make sense for the state of success. They made a number of moves for the success and sustainability of that organization. And a guy like that intrigues me. Brad Stevens just won Executive of the Year simply because he is the guy that's, running the show, but also has smart people around him like Dave Lewing. Of course, it's others, but Dave Lewing is surrounded by success and has the foresight to keep the Celtics competitive. we thought the damn Boston Celtics was potentially going to be further down, at least in the rankings in the Eastern Conference. These guys was right back at the top. Right back at the top. So you can't be mad about that. Now, one thing that I want to ask and just kind of tie in the first part of this episode and tie it into the second part is, were you comfortable with the familiar face, or will you be comfortable with the familiar face of Matt Lloyd, or will you be more open to the new face in the building? Because I don't know Matt Lloyd as a man. I don't know what kind of relationship he had with the Bulls organization when he was here. I'll be honest. But the biggest question is always going to be, can you tell Michael Reinsdorf this is how we about to do business? This is how we about to set it up? Because Michael Reinsdorf talk about that communication. Can Matt Lloyd communicate effectively? Because I know one thing, or at least I'm anticipating, or I have an idea. Dave Lewing, I'm not saying he's getting a job, but if he comes in and he sees a dysfunctional ass owner trying to get in the way, I believe he will speak up. That's just my belief. You don't make these moves and be successful by not speaking up and speaking out and doing your due diligence. That's just my personal opinion. Now, I'm not saying that Matt Lloyd can't be a vocal leader, but are you going to go out there and be a yes man, or are you going to go out there and be a man that wants to get the job done? I'm not trying to discredit Matt Lloyd, but when you know what I'm saying? When you have those certain relationships, sometimes, depending on the person, they don't like to hurt feelings. And then sometimes you get the people that want to be a little bit more direct. So I'm just hoping that if it is Matt Lloyd that gets hired, can he be more direct with Michael Reinsdorf? And can that energy be reciprocated from Michael Reinsdorf to whoever the person is? Simply because Michael Reinsdorf admitted that he went too long without checking in on AK. Bro, when the move was getting done, what? You're supposed to be able to go in and check on those type of things. But I think this stuff is very interesting, man. Me personally, I love the name Dave Lewing being thrown in the hat. I hope the Chicago Bulls are making the right decision and will make the right decision. We only have a couple weeks before the NBA draft lottery. I would love for a decision to be made by then. Me personally, I think they need hopefully by the end of this week or sometime early next week, the decision has been made. Maybe they do their interviews for this week, think about it over the weekend, and then it's announced Monday. Maybe they don't need to do all that, and maybe the decision gets done faster. However it is, I just hope that the decision is made before the NBA draft lottery, because right after that, the combine starts, and it's all, we got to put the rubber to the road, bro. We trying to put the rubber to the road, bro. So, yeah, man, I think it's something that's very, very interesting, something that we're going to keep our eyes on, man. And I think honestly, I love the candidates. I did have one question, though. We did have Dennis Lindsey thrown in the hat from Detroit, who was a quote-unquote finalist. Now that we seeing Detroit struggle, how y'all feeling about bro? Because them guys can't score. Yeah, you found some talent, Jalen Duren. You got Cade. But when you called the Chicago Bulls for Kevin Huerter, why you ain't asked for Ayo Dosunmu? I'm just saying, bro. Why you ain't asked for Kobe White? You asked for Kevin Huerter. I'm just that's some of the things in the moves we have to think about. The same thing could be said about Dave Lewing. Why did you trade Anthony Simons for Nikola Vucevic? But I feel like we have more evidence or more of an understanding for that move because they needed size. They needed help. And with Jason Tatum at that time potentially returning, I think you would have been good. That make a little bit more sense on why you call the Chicago Bulls and ask for Kevin Huerter and not Ayo Dosunmu or Kobe White. Why did you do that? If I'm the GM, I got to ask that question. Why you ain't asked AK for Ayo? He would have just gave him up for three second-round picks. You still could have gave up Jaden Ivey. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things I gotta ask. I gotta ask that legit question simply because look at, bro, you about to be a 1 seed to get flushed out by the 8 seed? And Orlando got talent, but damn, they look unmatched out there. That offense lacking out there. Is Cade Cunningham a bust? So, hey, Dennis Lansley, I gotta ask the question, big dog. I gotta ask the question. But hey, that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Shy Boys Podcast. Before y'all get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you try to see red. And y'all already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Cognac. Gang.